North Carolina superintendent says that he's too busy helping people to be concerned with people who criticize public schools. I guess the fact that he keeps getting his six-figure union salary, even though the school is canceled, makes it all the easier to smugly ignore the epic failures of public schools. I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie, and this is The Dr. Duke Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 200th episode of The Dr. Duke Show. That's 200. The only program that continues to keep you educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. Today, we talk about a black professor who is doubling down on his statement that whiteness is terrorism. Plus, black academics say wearing a protective face mask will only lead to racial profiling. And we deliver some real education as we head to Rome to discuss another instant classic display of architecture known as the Pantheon. But we start in North Carolina, where a particularly smug school superintendent took to Twitter to call out what he refers to as the public school haters, adding that his staff is too busy loving on students to actually care what you think. Yeah, okay. So here's the smug guy I was telling you. Superintendent public school dude, right? So this both proves something we've been saying for a long time and shows you how clueless the public schools are. So now that there is no public school, everything is done online. This guy is overseeing meals programs where the kids show up and get free food from the government. He's telling us, he's literally making the point we're all making. He is worried about every single thing except your kid's education. He now can't be bothered with you public school haters and the fact that Johnny can't read and Janie can't write and Alfie can't do math. The fact is that everybody's getting their hot breakfast. Everybody's getting their breakfast biscuit sandwich, right? And that proves how you need us. You need us for everything, the public schools, except educating your kids.
And we're speaking about Scott Elliott. He's the superintendent of the Watauga County Schools in western North Carolina. And there are 4,650 students in that entire school district. And he tweeted out, "To all the public school haters, social media stars, self-promoters, and critical friends." I don't know what that means. "We appreciate all the advice about re-envisioning education that right now we're busy loving on our students and feeding the community.
Tell you what.
We'll catch back up with you in the fall."
Tell you what. Let's give you the salary of somebody who's a professional lover of children and who hands out food. Let's give you what the cafeteria ladies make. Because what you're doing is smiling at children and passing out free government lunches. So take away that $150,000 salary, right? And force you to get paid what you should get paid for somebody who provides food, oversees the production of food, and loves on kids, whatever the hell that means in your twisted, sexually aware public schools.
So Elliott had said he did this tweet because he saw the many messages and editorials over the past few weeks about how this pandemic is going to be a catalyst for reforming our, quote, broken public schools. Yeah, exactly.
Broken is when you pay attention to everything that's not schooling, right? You are not doctors. You are not nutritionists. You are not exercise specialists. You are not epidemiologists. You are not economists. You are not journalists. You are public school teachers. That's what you are. Quit pretending you are all those other things and Dr. Ruth on top of it without being somebody who actually teaches my kids reading, writing, and arithmetic.
All right. Elliott also said that at a time when teachers are working twice as hard as normal.
Are they?
Technology
How?
for some of them.
How?
They're working differently than they did.
I will accept they're working differently. How do you argue? How do you make the argument that they're working twice as hard? How?
Ask Mr. Elliott. And our child nutrition workers and bus drivers
who aren't teachers
are delivering thousands of meals a day. They don't need to be told that they need to be fixed. Right now, especially in our small communities where pretty much everything else is shut down, these folks are the heroes. It's my job to lift them up and buffer them from the nonsense and the noise.
So you're making $150,000 not to deliver food and not to actually love on kids. Your $150,000 salary is guaranteed, though your schools are empty and no one's learning anything, because you lift up and buffer. You get to, so forget, let me rescind what I said before. You're not even passing out the food. You don't even deserve a cafeteria salary, lunch lady salary. You just need, you're a bufferer and a holder-upter. Who do we pay? Do we even pay for this?
You know what you pay for?
What?
Snaps. You pay for
Snaps. Yeah, you get stickers and snaps
Snaps.
for your salary.
That's-
I pretty much guarantee you, if you got paid for what you were actually doing, you wouldn't be doing it anymore.
Okay, let's move on because
Just hold on. The smugness of these guys. I mean, yeah, we're not doing what you're paying us to do. Yeah, what we promise you when you send your kids to public school doesn't get done. Yeah, your kids are 2 or 3 years behind where they were supposed to be. That's right, they're not ready for college. That's right, they won't be able to pick careers for themselves. That's right, they're not going to be able to feed their families. But hey, I loved on them. I loved on them and gave them, well, somebody else gave them in my name, a breakfast, a bag lunch once for a couple months while coronavirus wreaked havoc with the land. It's the smugness of these guys.
well, here's another smug.
Smug?
We have Professor Johnny Eric Williams, who's a professor of sociology, which says it all, at Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. He wrote an op-ed. It's called "I Tweeted Whiteness is Terrorism" and was condemned for it. Here's why I'm right. So before we get to what he currently did in this op-ed, we have to give a little history of Mr. Williams because he has made these kinds of comments for several years on his social medias. Last Easter, he actually tweeted, "All self-identified white people, no exceptions, are invested in and collude with systemic white racism, white supremacy."
And look at that quote for a second. So notice what he does, self-identified. So if I don't identify as white, now I'm innocent, right? This is what he's telling you.
No exceptions.
What he's telling you is you either utterly reject your race or, as if that's possible, by the way. And notice the racial double entendres here. You're right no matter what you do, but if you deny your whitehood, you're not quite responsible. And how does one do that? And what if I identify as black? If I identify as black, do I get now to have the privileges of Johnny Johnny Eric Williams?
Johnny E. You'll see that's kind of
Coming.
It's happening in his current op-ed, but earlier last year he actually took on the Obamas. Ooh. He said white Negroes, like KNEEGROWS, Negroes, really need a lot of therapy and a good old ass kicking. When questioned about who he was referring to when he said that, he said, "I'm referring to Candace Owens and other less brazen but more insidious, dangerous white Negroes like Barry and Michelle Obama and many other white Negroes you encounter daily."
All this guy does is racially stereotype. He engages in bigoted generalizations. He makes overtly racist statements. And for that, he's tenured and happy. Because if you and I made those same statements,
I would
there
not
would
be
be
tenured.
zero tolerance. Your universities are constantly telling you how they have zero tolerance for racial hate. Well, here you are, which proves that they tolerate it.
So we're getting into
Yes,
that.
we are.
He is tenured, as you say,
Yep.
but he has been placed on leave by Trinity College in the past.
leave.
Paid leave, yes, for inflammatory remarks, including a Facebook post following when the congressional shooting happened with Steve Scalise. Following that, he said that white people are inhuman a-holes, and the first responders should have let the white victims effing die.
And if I had said that the victims of black shooting were inhuman a-holes and the cop should have let them die, I would not have gotten paid leave. I would be fired.
Okay, so all of that in the past leads us to today, his
Yep.
op-ed. He says, "For years now, I have been derided for inciting violence by those who think of themselves as white because I dare to name and write about the sources of racially oppressed people suffering, whites and their system of white racism."
See, those who think themselves white.
Yes.
What he's trying to subtly tell you is white doesn't exist.
He says,
White is responsible for all problems, yet white doesn't. It's more of that racial doublespeak.
race consists of shared patterns of seeing, thinking, and acting that validate and legitimize an existence of white identity and a white worldview. But there is no white race.
There you go. And by that argument, there's no black race either.
White-
By the way, by that argument, there is no such thing as race, therefore there can't be racism. So Johnny Eric can't be discriminated against, right?
Yeah, well,
You think?
Okay, whiteness is a shared conglomeration of fabricated meanings and ideas about biologically insignificant human differences. Whiteness only exists in relation or opposition to blackness and other fictitious racial categories created by whiteness adherents for the purpose of cementing a higher status and material advantage over other people that are excluded from being white.
So none of it exists is what he just said.
Yes.
So why are we having this conversation?
To end,
None of it exists, period.
To end, he says, whiteness, by its very definition and operation as a key element of white supremacy, kills. It is mental and physical terrorism. To end the white terrorism that is directed at racially oppressed people here and in other nations, it is essential that self-identified whites and their whiteness collaborators among the racially oppressed confront their white problem head-on, unencumbered by racial comfort. Such comfortableness enables folks immersed in whiteness to disregard their complicity in systemic white racism, forestalling the destruction of white supremacy. Gobbledygook, gobbledygook.
One student,
That's it.
one member of the college Republican student on campus said the following, quote, "Everyone really questions, even liberals, why he is still here." I think that's kind of a question a lot of people are asking is, he advocated for white genocide, why is he still here? And the answer is because without white guilt, his ass would have been gone. Without white liberal double standards, he would have been gone. What's keeping you in your job, pal, is exactly the thing you want to get rid of. Only you are too stupid, sir, to recognize it. So you are the worst kind of racial huckster. You deride the thing that you're accusing, but then the thing that you're accusing is the only thing that keeps you in your position. If you had been anybody else but you and you had made those comments, you would be gone. So you are not just a bigot, you're a coward. And you're also, quite frankly, stupid below the requirement at which they should allow professors to teach.
Now, I'm not sure if Johnny E. Williams is one of these black academics who refuses to wear face masks.
You mean black academics?
Black academics, but there are quite a few black academics who are refusing to wear face masks because of racial profiling. So we've been told now that, yes, maybe you should wear a face mask with the whole COVID-19, that it would kind of protect you, protect others. But CNN, of course, had to be like, well, but isn't that going to increase racial profiling? And so they found people to agree with this.
Of course they did.
So the CDC has recommended you wear them. Trevor Logan is an economics professor at Ohio State University, and he said no, he will not do it. He told CNN, "We have a lot of examples of the presumed criminality of black men in general. And then we have the advice to go out in public in something that can certainly be read as being criminal or nefarious.
Wait a second.
Particularly when applied to black men."
Hey, given what our last two professors have had to say, why don't you wear a white mask? Because you know, stupid whiteys like us, all we gonna see is that white face, right? And we'll think you're one of the brotherhood. You will come up to you and start doing the white guy handshake, you know? We'll do that. You wear white masks, I'm telling you. Then you'll be able to understand what goes on in our evil white guy conspiracies. Because we're too stupid to see through the mask. Now, I can see it if you're going to put a black mask on. Unless you're, well, if you're the governor of Virginia, that's okay. But other than that, or if you're Jimmy Kimmel
or Canadian President Trudeau.
Trudeau, or who's the other annoying, Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon, who actually wore blackface. Sure, that's okay if you're one of them. But no, seriously, you keep telling us that the only way you're seen is to become white, right? So what's your real hang-up by wearing a white mask? I mean, in fact, this is your real problem. Most of the masks that I've seen are white. That's your real social justice problem.
Logan also said, "This wearing a homemade mask seems like a reasonable response unless you just sort of take American society out of it. When you can't do that, you're basically telling people to look dangerous given racial stereotypes that are out there. This is in the larger context of black men fitting the description of a suspect who has a hood on, who has a face covering on. You don't have to wear a hood.
Listen, guys, black professors, you do realize, right, that black men kill more black professors and black men than anybody else, right? You write that. You get that. You are much more likely to be killed by another black man than you are by a white man. In fact, black on white violence is a lot lower than black on black violence. So why don't you also wear a white mask so your black brothers would be less likely to kill you? How about that for stupid racialist thinking? How about that? You want to play the game of stupid, mindless racialist thinking? Tell me what's wrong with my proposal, right? You want to stop from getting killed in this society? Dress like a white guy, wear a white mask, and less black men will kill you. How about that? That's statistically upheld. Let's play stupid racialist games.
Well, Logan was not alone. We're in Ohio, nonetheless. In Columbus, Ohio, an educator named Aaron Thomas tweeted out, "I don't feel safe wearing a handkerchief or something else that isn't clearly a protective mask covering my face to the store because I am a black man living in this world. I want to stay alive, but I also want to stay alive."
Yeah.
Kind of like the Bee Gees.
Yeah, that's really, you see the cleverness of that?
I get
Wants
it.
to stay alive by staying alive. Aaron, you have my profound sympathy. Again, I go back to what I said before. If you guys are going to play these games, right? If you're going to argue, really sit there and argue that being a black man has a higher mortality rate than being a victim of this kind of plague, then go ahead and don't. And when it happens to you, when you get sick, and then when you die, because we do see nature's racist too. From what we're seeing in the early signs of America, right, that the virus in America, more blacks are dying percentage-wise than whites, right? And so stop blaming society, start blaming nature, right? You can run away from the racist white guys right into the hands of the virus who's killing more whites than blacks. Excuse me, more blacks than whites. You can't run anyway, it's so hard. I want to stay alive, but I want to stay alive. But I want to stay alive. You don't, do you feel me?
Sorry, I'm just channeling my Bee Gees. Barry Gibb.
Everything that happens is a occasion for whining, racial whining.
Do you want one more quote to upset you? We have the ACLU.
Renika?
Well, you can go with Renika Moore or Andrea Young. Who would you like to hear from?
You take Andrea, I'll take Renika.
So Andrea Young is the executive director of the ACLU of Georgia, and she characterized the CDC's mask guidance as one more instance of racial insensitivity that pervades the response to this pandemic. To date, neither federal nor Georgia state officials are addressing the racial disparities in access to health care, access to the internet, and the ability to work from home. Black Americans are suffering disproportionately from this pandemic.
And the way you fix that, Andrea, is to refuse to wear masks. Really? It's like people are actually jealous that coronavirus is getting all the attention.
Have you not noticed that?
Is getting way more attention than race right now, and then women's issues are being ignored. See Planned Parenthood in the corner screaming, "Pay attention to us! Pay attention to us!"
It's time for some real education. We're going to do something a little different today on Instant Classic, as we're going to look at the entirety of a building, but it's really something that's so much more. The Pantheon in Rome. It was built in the early 2nd century as a Roman temple, but the Pantheon actually became a Catholic church in the 7th century. It's a one-of-a-kind structure. It's cylindrical with a large granite Corinthian columns and a rectangular vestibule. And if you look at all ancient Roman buildings, it remains mostly intact compared to the rest of them, and it's been visited by millions of people every single year. And even if you haven't visited, if you take a look at it, you probably can see the inspiration that inspired so many buildings in the West, including the U.S. Capitol, the National Gallery of Art in D.C., and then anything to do with Thomas Jefferson, the Jefferson Memorial, Monticello, his home, the University of Virginia Rotunda, which obviously he's the one who founded and came up with that. And just in case anyone didn't know, Pantheon actually means temple to all the gods.
Oh yeah, take a look at the image. It's a absolutely beautiful building, but it actually has more ancient influences than even the colonial period. The dome that was built over the Florentine Cathedral in the early Renaissance, the Vatican dome, which Michelangelo had a hand in building, it couldn't have been done without the really remarkable way that this was put together. On the outside, you see the facade, which looks like a triangle, right, with all the columns, but the building is actually round. Zip to another picture, Mike. You get a sense on the inside. You can see the roundness of it. This is really the biggest dome that was ever created in the ancient world, and it's a dome that encompasses the entirety of the building. You can see the little slots in the side there where all the statues of the gods were, and it has, in the picture on the right, it has an absolute oculus, an eye, the open part of the building, very in the center of the roof, the dome there, that where the sunlight comes in. And as the sun traveled across the Roman sky, at various times it would slant in different directions to illuminate the different gods and goddesses in their niches. It became a beautiful Christian church and had tremendous impact on Brunelleschi's dome in Florence, on, again, Michelangelo's dome for the Vatican, to say nothing of colonial revivalist, classical revivalist art and architecture. So really an important building. There was nothing like it in ancient Rome. When you think of Rome, you think of columns. And you think about all those buildings and fragments of buildings that no longer stand. And you think about the durability of this building and what it means. But what an absolutely beautiful building it is, an absolute triumph of Roman engineering and architecture. And you can see how big it is, right? I mean, again, in a world without hydraulic lift machines and cranes, and it's a pretty stupendous thing. And you could see that one of Augustus Caesar's generals, Marcus Agrippa, is the one who built it, a private donor, a patron. Agrippa was Augustus Caesar's military genius who, the Battle of Actium, played a major naval battle of Actium in 29 BC, played a major part in defeating Mark Antony and his Roman forces to unite the people of Rome, the Empire of Rome, under one man, the first emperor, Augustus Octavian Caesar. And Marcus Agrippa donated that building out of his own money to the people of Rome.
And that will wrap up this Wednesday. For those of you with kids, just a reminder that Freedom Project Media is releasing 2 daily animated education videos on our Facebook page. We highlight a new American president every day at 10 a.m. Central Time, and then one of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence at 2 p.m. So gather the kids and do a little homeschooling with Freedom Project.
And just another quick reminder, our online Judeo-Christian K-12 school, kindergarten through high school, fully accredited, Christian school, Judeo-Christian values, classical learning, real subject matter, teaching your kids how to read, to write, to do math, to do science, no sex, no free lunches, none of the rest of that stuff. It's currently enrolling for the fall. Freedom Project Academy features hundreds of students attending live online classes from the comfort of their homes, completely coronavirus free. Request your free packet at freedomforschool.com. That's freedomforschool.com. For Freedom Project, I'm Dr. Duke. She's Katie. And until next time, stay educated, my friends.